Welcome to another episode of College Admission TV. JP Novin speaks with Dr. Kate Smith, president of Rio Salado College, about how artificial intelligence is reshaping the workforce and redefining the role of higher ed.
Welcome to another episode of our presidential podcast. In this season 3 of our podcast, we are focused on AI, higher education, and the future of workforce. I'm your host, JP Novin, and today I'm honored to be joined by President Kate Smith of Rio Salado College. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Novin. I'm very excited to spend some time with you, just diving further into AI and the future of education.
Well, we're excited to have you. Your institution is recognized as a leader in online and competency-based education, and you serve tens of thousands of students across Arizona and beyond. My understanding is you're part of the Maricopa Community College District, and you provide really accessible, flexible, student-centered learning. You have a lot of people who are going adult learners, career changers, first generation students that come to you all, and under your leadership, you've really focused on, workforce readiness with your students. So I'll stop. I would love to hear I think our audience would love to hear your background, first of all, and then learn a little bit more about your college.
Well, thanks so much. So my background, it's funny that I'm now located in Tempe, Arizona, where it's sunny. It feels like every day, but it's not every day of the year. Because I grew up and spent most of my career in upstate New York.
Oh, wow.
And you don't get a lot of sunshine there. So, and I grew up professionally, I grew up mostly at a community college there, Monroe Community College. Taught, high school for a year, did some other consulting work. But mostly, once I got to the community college, I was like, oh, this is home. Like I am very passionate about the work that community colleges do all across the country. So I actually started teaching mathematics. So that was where my career began. I was a full-time faculty member for 15 years, did some work with teacher education, happenstance into the administration side. And then found my way out to Rio Salado College, which, as much as I loved where I had been and thought I'd spend my whole career there, actually, when I got to Rio, who the college is, and who I am were just such a great match, I will say. It was really wonderful to just come to such an innovative institution where people are willing to embrace thinking differently and try it. And if it fails, then we learn something, right? And move on. So Rio, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of Rio. Is that it started in 1978, and it was founded to not serve students in the way that other colleges were serving students. The goal was to figure out what is keeping students out of post-secondary ed, what's getting in the way, and then go around those barriers or go right through, but find a way to provide that type of access. Hence the name Rio Salado, Salt River, right? The river goes around obstacles and cuts through barriers. That's kind of our DNA. And in that, so as part of that, Rio then entered the online distance learning in the mid-90s, one of the earliest colleges in the country to go online. And in that same mindset, kept iterating, and early on realized, it's great to have the flexibility of online, but if we just have a start date in September and a start date in January and maybe one in the summer, what happens if you miss that start date? You got to wait 5 months? That does not make sense to a lot of, adult learners especially. So Rio iterated to we have about 48 start dates a year. Almost every Monday of the year, you can sign up and start taking classes that are asynchronous and online. Although that's not all we do. So JP, you tell me, do you want me to keep going? We have a large incarcerated student population. We have a very large dual enrollment student population. We have a large population of learners who are at businesses and are hosted at those businesses. So just a very dynamic institution, I would say, that's always willing to kind of push the boundaries to think about how can we help more learners not only access post-secondary education, but be successful.
Well, no, thank you
That was
so
a
much.
lot, sorry.
No, you're doing great. And you authored an opinion piece titled AI Workforce Development and Higher Education Convergence, Redefining the Learning Experience. So this sets us up for the first question, which is, how do you perceive the impact of AI on the future workforce in the next 5 years?
So if I'm honest with you, I think we don't actually know.
Yes.
I think it's happening so quickly and it's dramatically changing that what I think is fundamentally important right now is how are we preparing our learners with AI literacy and AI fluency and critical thinking fluency, right? How do we maintain in this rapidly changing world where the jobs are going to be different? And 5 years from now, what jobs are going to exist that we don't exist today? And how are we preparing that future workforce to be adaptable, to be flexible, and to have the learning skills that they need, the digital fluency, the data fluency, and the artificial intelligence fluency? It's not just right, like quantum computing's coming, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that ability to be adaptive at all times and learn how to, like I always describe it as just living in, if you're in a boat going through the rapids, like it's not going to be calm waters, it's just going to be rapids, and learning how to be comfortable in that and navigate in that.
How do you see the difference between, we all remember the early 90s, right? Like we use.
I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, you weren't. I do.
I'm just kidding.
Remember we had like Alta Vista and InfoSeek and Ask Jeeves, all of these different search engines, and then Yahoo came and like, this is great. And then obviously Google took over the search engine. And so back then the discussion was internet literacy, right?
Yep.
How do you think AI literacy is it the same as internet literacy? Is it going to be different? How do you see these technologies if you have to compare and contrast?
I see similarities in that, and we talk about this at the college actually quite a bit, and with our faculty quite a bit, because we say like it's, we've developed an AI roadmap for the institution, right? And we see it as not a forever thing, right? Like eventually we are going to be at a place where, like the internet, it just is a part of everybody's daily life. It's not that you need to learn AI literacy skills anymore. So I think what we're looking at right now is almost, I don't know, stopgap sounds too pedantic, but it's just a critically important piece right now to bridge folks into the future workforce that's already here. When we haven't grown up with all of those skills and understanding and knowledge embedded in us because it's been a part of our lives growing up. So I think that's kind of the moment, part of the moment that we're in. The other part of that moment is the teaching and learning side, but please go ahead.
No, the innovation think tank, right? The ITT that you have in place.
Yes.
I love that. That's wonderful. So this question always comes up, and I don't want to be doom and gloom. That's not the goal, right? So this is called, replacements, professions as risks. So question about which professions or industries are most at risk in the coming 5 years? This is a perfect question for you because you have so many career changes, right?
Right.
As you think about those students, are there careers here that you kind of pause and you go, hold on, this might get impacted more than other fields, and maybe even get replaced? Are there industries or professions that concern you?
Yes, most of them, if I'm honest. And that's why, and it's not doom and gloom when I say that. So, for example, let's take automated driving, right? Automated truck driving, right?
Yes.
Like, so we've been in this dearth of needing more people to go into driving trucks. Part of that is because the industry knows that automated driving is coming in, and eventually we're just going to have, it's going to be kind of weird, I think, but like the trailers just driving down the roads, right? Because they're just going to change over time, right? So in that, what I think, in my crystal ball, that's not necessarily valid, but the job of the driver, then what we're preparing that driver for is going to change to be a technician that understands how to support the vehicle, that understands, some of the technology behind automated driving and supports that work, supports fixing. So it's not necessarily so that job might go away completely, but it doesn't mean that that individual, their skills can be, reskilled to do other jobs in the same field. Architecture, right? We're hearing a lot about, architects right now. Their roles are changing. We have 1,000 adjunct faculty from across the country because our model, like I said, our model is different. And they're all professionals. And so they're informing us of just their daily job. One of them was just sharing 70% of their job is changing, right? And it's all about those who can work with AI and use AI will evolve with those jobs. And so that's why this moment is so important around the teaching and learning component. But not to take away from, we need people to think, right? We need people to be creative. We need people, to do all of that. So.
Yeah, I guess in that sense, we've been through this. The internet is the most recent seismic change of our industry. If you think about, if we had this discussion in 1992, that's kind of where we are right now. It feels like with AI. And I ask you, well, Amazon wasn't around, like the way we would change our shopping, or Facebook and all of the social networks were not around. Who would have thought advertising would change completely, right?
Right. That's a really good one. Yeah.
And so it seems it's obvious that we're going to go through a workforce recalibration, right? We just don't know what this world is going to look like. And I guess, as you think about this uncertain, exciting world that's coming, what do you think we need to do to equip and educate students for careers that are going to be revolutionized, may not exist? How do we prepare the students for this new unknown? We always are doing that. It's nothing new, but it's just, I would say, more pronounced.
I love that. I know people like when people disagree on on a podcast, but actually I love that. And I totally agree with how you just painted that picture. I've just lost my train of thought. Take me back to the basic part of the question.
Yeah, I'm saying, how do you equip and educate students for those careers?
Yeah. So I feel a little bit like a broken record. So let me know if you want me to go in a different direction. But I really think that it's getting at the fundamental skills of having data, knowing what to do with data, having data literacy, having computational thinking skills, analytical skills, helping people in communication, like some of the basic durable skills, the critical thinking, so that as they grow and learn and as their career changes, as the new job emerges that doesn't exist today, they have the foundational skills to be able to transition into it, right? And I think that's also going to be, I don't know how we're going to address this, but I do just understanding, human nature, just really helping people with resilience, right? And building some, you know, career resilience, personal resilience, and for organizations, institutional resilience in times that are changing so rapidly that we really are helping equip people to understand that what you're doing, you graduate with a degree, you get this job, it's probably not going to be the job you're doing in 5 years, and helping people prepare for that.
So let's go through a scenario. Okay. So
Okay.
I am a student who's now been trained to be an accountant. I even took my CPA exam, right? And AI will now do the balance sheet, will do the P&L, will tell me the EBITDA. You basically have so my job is going to be to structure the data. Once the data is structured, the AI is going to do everything,
Right.
And so as an accountant now, and also payroll, like if you got AI doing account receivables, right? If you have it doing all the financial reporting, right? And then if you have it doing analysis as well, which is starts looking, let's say you work for real estate companies, and it says, okay, these are the rentals here. And then it looks at all the rentals in the area and says, you're charging more, and it provides intelligence, and then it's like, okay, well, it used to be 5 people doing this job. Now it really needs 1 person just to structure data. And the person just kind of double checks the AI. And so, imagine a company who used to have 5 people and now they just need 1 person to do that job. So in that scenario, what I tell that person, because this is coming, this is not even like, it might come, this is definitely coming, and it's already being developed. So how do we train that person to say, okay, you have the problem solving skills, you have a biological brain versus a neural brain of processing information, but we might need you to do other stuff than what we've trained you to do. I mean, it's an unfair question. I get it, right? But indulge me. How do we look at that?
I mean, if we're gonna go there,
Yeah.
If we're gonna think about a time when humans aren't really needed, we got to question what we're doing. But I don't think we'll end up there. I do want to say, I got to throw this in, JP. There was, I don't know if you saw the piece that was written. I don't remember who the author was. Like, what would it mean to have a higher education institution that's just run by 1 person?
Yeah.
1 faculty that programs the AI on all the content, the teaching, the learning, the assessments, the grading, the support services, and you just have 1 person running a university, and you don't need any other humans. I mean, we're begging some big questions there. Yeah. And what does human connection mean? What does all of that mean? And what does living in the world mean then? So coming back away from that and those kind of really big esoteric questions, I think these are the real conversations we need to be having among ourselves.
Yes.
And how are we addressing this, and how are we preparing learners, and what are those future jobs, right? Because we see this coming, and at the same time we hear, but it's going to create so many other jobs. And I don't know what those other jobs are yet, but how are we then, it just goes back to then how are we preparing our learners for that type of future? And that is, I think the things we've been talking about. Yeah.
Here in Bay Area, a few years back, Stanford had this symposium, and they were talking about perpetual training and learning. So basically, learning becomes a subscription at some point rather than a degree and I know this has been being kicked around by a lot of, but it just seems to me like if you're in a medical field, you constantly have to do you have to do
Yep.
rotations, you have to do clinical, and then you have to go into annual training to keep up with that field. I mean, is that too far-fetched? No matter what major you are, might actually end up looking like that, where everyone, even if you're English major, maybe your clinical is working for a journal. If you want to be a pre-law, if you want to be going to writing, like schools actually facilitating those experiences, and even after you graduate, now you're required to actually keep getting training.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're already there
Hmm.
in some respects. I don't know that that will be every profession, but this is, we talk about this a lot with like, how are we creating shorter, micro credentials? How are we kind of chunking content and skills and helping develop skills that can be stackable, lead to degrees, et cetera? Because right now in our world, that still does matter when you look at lifetime pay and, economy and all that. But when we think about the World Economic Forum, I think their last report was 60% of all jobs will need to be upskilled, reskilled within 5 years, right? So, and that's up from 50% a couple of years ago. So I think that's going to keep, that number, 70% of jobs pretty soon will need to be reskilled, upskilled within 5 years.
Hmm.
So from where I sit and look at this picture, I think about how do we not necessarily reinvent, but continue our relationships with our workforce partners, our industry partners, so that we are that we are evolving next to them, so that we can be providing that learning for their workforce as it's continuously changing and accelerating, but doing it again in that, so I call them on ramps and off ramps. That I don't think higher ed is going to continue to be. It will, in some respects, be, you graduate high school, you go to college, and then you have a career. I think that the future is going to be much more, you get some education, some post-secondary ed, and it's just throughout your career that the two are going to be a little bit more intertwined. I think if we do it well. I mean, we've seen this iteration where industry has taken on more and more of the training and education because, quite frankly, higher ed's been slow to respond as the needs are changing. So I think if we can do it together and just change much quicker, then I do think that is the future, that people will be constantly in and out of educational training of some kind and learning.
To that point, do you see this notion of having a bachelor's, master's, a doctorate degree, could that get reshaped somehow in a sense that, let's say you got a bachelor's degree, right? But the additional training, these micro credentials, or I don't know, is bachelor's degree plus, or do you see that degree granting? It's been around like this for 200-300 years now. Do you see that structure changing at all?
I do. I think it has to change. Not necessarily that it goes away.
Yeah.
But as companies, as industry also moves more and more into this skills-based economy, that and starts redefining what we're hiring and hiring by skills, the skills are still going to be there, right? A master's level engineer has some training and understanding different from a bachelor's engineer, different from a 2-year, associate's degree in engineering. But I do think it'll continue to morph as to how those pathways, associate, bachelor's, master's, doctorate, I think that those pathways will morph more fluid than they are right now, right? It was always very kind of a linear, sequential. I think that when you see needs changing, they're going to keep evolving too. We'll see.
No, I totally agree. What do we do about people like me who studied humanities and liberal arts majors, and I mean, you have general studies, liberal arts, and humanities, but what do we tell a parent or an individual who's passionate towards, I don't know, history, right? We know there are very few jobs out there as a historian. Uh, how do you
So
think?
yeah, the question is, how does a historian's job morph, right? So
Yeah,
with like, are we going to continue to have people teaching history?
yeah,
And to what extent? When people have access through artificial intelligence, well, artificial intelligence has been around a long time, right?
yes,
So, but with the advent of generative artificial intelligence, agentic artificial intelligence, et cetera, what is that going to look like? I think we don't know. I mean, we can make a lot of good
yeah,
guesses. What I will say is that the the human skills, the human learning, the understanding, the need for learning how to learn, the need for creativity and being able to explore ideas and question data and question what you're seeing from what artificial intelligence is even producing in a report. Those human skills are still going to be fundamentally important. Where, how, and what does it look like? I feel like I don't know. And this is what we talk about with our faculty a lot. We're kind of at this crossroads, and I do use the internet example a lot, actually. Where when the internet first came around, everyone's like, can't use internet in your classes. And, and then it was, how do we keep students from cheating? It's all of that same, we're repeating that part right now. But we don't exactly know how what does a sociologist need to learn and what do they need to be able to do in the age of artificial intelligence? I think we don't know fully yet. So here we are trying to address teaching and learning meaningfully in every area and not fully knowing what it's going to mean in 5 years.
yeah.
It's tough.
I mean, certainly internet gave us access to information, and now tools that are, general, AI, they are giving us more precise answers to our questions. And the question is going to be, for you, the challenge as a higher ed administrator is going to be very challenging, because how do you add, modify, and retire majors and programs as the industry is getting reshaped?
You bring your I feel very strongly on this one. You better be bringing your college along with you every step of this journey. You better be there with your faculty, your staff. We need to evolve as a college together to be effective in making those kinds of decisions. It can't be the administration or the faculty just saying, no, we're not doing this anymore. That will never work. And some of it is reshaping, right? Like as we look at our micro-credential work, we embed durable skills and badging into those, which is a lot of those liberal arts concepts, right? And so thinking through how we are merging what's important differently. But my basic answer is you better bring everybody along with you. And everybody needs to, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of culture work, right? It's a lot of honest conversations. It's a lot of encouraging people, try, learn, don't hide, let's not be afraid, so that we can be morphing. It's having our faculty out, thinking about the concept of like a fellowship idea where you've got your faculty out in industry, maybe for a week, like, oh, wow, let's see how things are changing. Let's see what, tomorrow's workforce needs. So I'm giving you a lot, but you better bring the college along. That's what my thought is. Am I missing your question?
No, you got it. I mean, I
Okay.
think the pushback that I always get when it comes to higher ed, and those of us are into this field, we know we have not been the trailblazers of technology and adoption. Okay. And sometimes the tool sets that we have is so risk averse. People want to kind of do the things they do, and they're trying to use old tools for new technology, and we become late adopters, right? So, let's take teaching, for example. So if I'm teaching a sociology class, okay, wouldn't I have to reimagine? Like I like it's like when take-home exams came by, people are like, "Oh my God, what is this?" Right? You know. But really, aside from doing some online stuff, where is the innovation going to come from that is going to kind of push the boundaries of our faculty and our administrators? We have to reimagine how we teach these classes, because we just can't tell people, in my opinion at least, don't use Chat GPT, don't use Gemini, don't use all the AI tooling and research. They're going to use it. It's just like calculators. So
Yep.
Does that interest
Yeah, so
and how we
honestly,
teach that?
yeah, no, that's what I mean by you better bring your whole institution along if you're a leader. Because we have been deep in those conversations a year and a half ago with our faculty. Like,
Mhm.
but with empathy, because it's a really hard crossroads for them, right?
Mhm.
And they're the ones who are going to find the way forward about how we reimagine, as long as we provide them the tools and the space and the safety net, that you're going to try some things that aren't going to go so well. We're working on, I'll give you a few examples, right? Like, hey, who wants to be a part of AAC and use, AI for teaching and learning, right? So then you get people who are out there, they're learning ideas, they come back, they're trying them, they're sharing with their colleagues. And that begins more slowly, it breaks down the resistance that might be in pockets. Because the conversation just naturally shifts to, how are we going to do this? So one of our faculty, she's amazing. We have amazing faculty, so forgive me. They're amazing. But she was one who was really frustrated by, AI, and just nobody's doing their own work anymore. So she finally just dug in and created a module teaching students, and now it's going to be across all the curriculum. Here's how you use AI responsibly, ethically. Here's how you cite it in your work. And they've all been working on, how do we redo our assignments so that there's something meaningful in them, right? And so that there's still learning happening that's meaningful, that use AI as a part of the assignment, because that's the future world. So so absolutely, 1,000,000%, that is where we need to go. And I have great hope that faculty are on that journey. And if they're not, then hopefully soon, as somebody from the Institute for the Future said, AI is not going to replace, faculty, but faculty who use AI will replace faculty who don't, right? So it's kind of a concept of, like, you can say nobody can use AI in my class, but to what good is that for you, for the learner? Like, I really don't know. I don't know why we would do that. So it doesn't help anybody.
That's an excellent point. And I'm always bewildered, right? So when I teach a class in business management, and after each class, I ask my students I survey them about the value of this class. Okay, I go, what did you learn? Did you? And they basically give me a grade. How did I perform in this last class, right? Because I always find, just like we teach students, the feedback loop is so important. If you go to most colleges, we do a survey with students that's informal. The students never get to see how a professor was rated, how their teaching style was rated. I mean, higher education is not a friend of transparency, in my opinion, because imagine if, I mean, I love rate my professor because at least students are telling us what they think. But I'm
Sorry, I have a really funny story about that. I will not tell on this podcast, but please keep going.
but the point here is, it sounds to me we might need to embrace more feedback loops. We might need to learn how to work closer to with the industry, and also it really start using not just consultants and what have you, but really how do we manage our college? How do we manage our curriculum? And how do we get more faster feedback loop to make, so how do we not to take away from the mission of higher education, but to make it more responsive? Do you think AI is going to help us to achieve some of the stuff that have been barriers in the past?
Yes, if we embrace it. I mean, we have to become more agile. And I think higher ed has said that probably for a long time. And I feel that, in the community college sector, we have a little bit of advantage in that space because we're not focused on research as much as, which is critically important to our country, right? But in that lets us, we've always had, in that realm, we've always been able to probably be a little more agile and a little quicker in being responsive, but still way too slow for the speed of work and the speed of industry and the speed of innovation. So I think there's great opportunity that artificial intelligence can help us. We just have to help ourselves change our mindsets, right? To embrace that type of technology, to embrace that it's okay to change quickly. That has never been higher ed's MO, is to change quickly and be responsive in that way. But if we're going to stay true to our mission, JP, our mission is to help our learners to success, right? Exactly. Help our communities to thrive. That happens one learner at a time having success, right? And so that, to me, then makes it our imperative.
Exactly. No, I love that. And so, as you think about K-12, right? I mean, before students, if you had a blank canvas and you could start drawing, how do you think K-12 should be embracing AI and prepare students for post-secondary education?
So I think that K-12, I would love them to continue to work on the human social side, right? And how do we help human beings still know how to connect with each other and not just do this, right? And look at, so there's that component of it. And then I don't understand not embracing AI in K-12. I think we want to go, I mean, K-12 is hard. Please, anybody in K-12 hearing this, I admire what you do. Like, it is hard work, right? So I just have deep appreciation. But as we think about it kind of at this, 50,000 foot level, an ideal state, it is teaching all of those human-centric skills alongside using the power of artificial intelligence to increase the ability of learning throughout the K-12. But I think that takes, again, thinking through what, and we're still early on in this, fast moving, agentic, generative artificial intelligence journey, that we also got to give everybody a break and understand that it's happening fast, because they need time. I think we need time to really think that through. How do we use these tools in ways that really increase learning and competency and thinking and exploring and what's really important in being, a successful human being in the age of artificial intelligence?
You're so right. I mean, I think if our kids could learn what they really learn in sports, how to collaborate, how to win, how to
Yes.
lose, how to
Yes.
communicate.
Yes.
Because we know they're going to get the information later, but those things that keep our kids healthy, right? And
how to be critical thinkers,
how
right?
to
Because you can envision a future. I'm sorry, I jumped in, but you can envision a future where they're just so, driven by what their artificial intelligence is showing them to pause and bring questions, learning how to question. Okay, sorry.
no, that's exactly, that's why we're having this podcast, because we want to hear this thought. So as you sit with your board, and what kind of discussion, how much of your board discussions are about this AI topic?
So over the past year, so we have our governing board where there's one for the whole system, and then we have our individual college advisory boards. And we've actually held a few different sessions just on AI technology. Where are we? What is it? Where are we headed with it? How is it impacting jobs? Asking the community, how is this impacting work in your space? And trying to bring that into those conversations, because our boards are mostly made up of a lot of people who are not necessarily on the cutting edge of technology and how it's changing. So I think it's really important to help, again, like I said, bring your college along, right? Like give everybody some learning time, some play time, right? Try some things, and then you can go deeper and deeper into those conversations.
So what will your institution look like 5 years from now?
Oh, I'm so excited about that. Because we're really embracing what's the next generation digital learning environment going to be? And how do we start working on it? We're working on it now. And so I'm very excited about what the possibilities and the potential are in how, because I think it's really, again, I think it's incumbent upon us, and especially for community colleges who much lower funded, right, in the higher ed ecosystem, serve the majority, the most underserved in our communities. So I think it's really incumbent that we are future forward, future thinking, and how are we building that environment now that's going to meet those needs? So in 5 years, how our students are learning is going to be very different. I'm very excited about it. That's a whole different podcast.
President Smith, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, Dr. Novin, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I look forward to learning more from you.
Likewise. Cheers.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.